You are now listening to Talk Your Jits podcast.
Hello and welcome to Talk Your Jits podcast. This podcast is, as the name implies, all about jiu-jitsu. I'm your host, Lamar Smith, and today's guest is a blue belt who trains at November Tango BJJ, located in Great Bend, Kansas. Ladies and gentlemen, Ed Bowman.
Hey, thank you for having me on.
Oh man, not a problem, man. How are you doing today, sir?
I'm doing well, thank you.
That's good to hear. Well, let's give the people what they want. You want to formally introduce yourself again? Go ahead and let's hear about your jiu-jitsu journey.
I'm Ed Bowman. I'm a blue belt in jiu-jitsu, and it took me 30 years to find my jiu-jitsu school.
Oh wow!
Something I started searching for in high school. So back in 1993, the first time I think the first UFC came out, and we had a bunch of people over at the house. Everybody's arguing about who's going to win and what style's going to be best. And I trained like some Hapkido and Taekwondo, some boxing, things like that. And then I wrestled at the high school level. So we go through and watch the two guys that I thought were the best were the two grapplers, Ken Shamrock and Wes Gracie, obviously, mow through everybody. And so personally at that time, I'm wrestling for Tom Darnley. He's a 1969 New York, third in the state of New York. And back then, there was only one state champ. There was no, like, you guys probably have classes, big school, small school kind of thing.
Yeah, small school.
So Tom was third in the entire state of New York. So he's a tough guy. And he'd actually beat the state champ 15-1 as a freshman, and then had a rematch with the guy that year and lost by like a point. I think he went on to beat the guy in the summer freestyle tournament, state tournament, for first, on the way beating a guy that was like a Syracuse University runner-up. So he's a tough guy. And one of the things that I think that we kind of get in arguments about different styles of grappling and what's better, what's superior. And I think instead of doing that, you got to think about everything as being like a related. There's skills from wrestling that work well with jiu-jitsu that can better your game. There's skills from jiu-jitsu that can upgrade your game. So with wrestling for Tom, he talked a lot about, I'm going to say grappling instead of wrestling, about grappling mirroring life. He talked about a lot about whenever you're feeling comfortable on the mat, if you're in danger.
Mm-hmm.
And I think if you ever rolled with an upper belt, those times when you're starting to feel pretty good about yourself, that's right before the trap's about to get sprung.
Yep. Yes, indeed.
So he would do that. He would put you in spots where enormous pressure from on top, and then you think there's an escape, and really it's where he wants you to go.
Mm-hmm.
And his big thing was, if there's time on the clock, there's hope. So if you got time in your life, you never give up. You just keep pushing forward. We had one teammate who really kind of exemplified that. He had, in wrestling, you have a tech fall, where it's kind of like a mercy roll. If you're behind by 15 points, they call it as a technical fall, and the match is over.
Mm-hmm.
One of my teammates was down 14-0, like on 5 separate occasions, and came back to pin the guy.
Nice.
So another thing he talked about was, making sure you're in shape, pressing forward all the time. You got to go through difficulties, so just keep your head down and keep moving forward. And then when you're competing, you're not just competing for yourself, you're competing for your team, you're competing for your family.
Mm-hmm.
Because, those are the people that get up early in the morning and drive across the state to get you where you got to go for, I don't know what the tournaments are like in Michigan, but for the area of Kansas I'm in, we're looking at competition-wise for jiu-jitsu tournament, you're going a minimum of 2-hour drive, or like 3 or 4 hours up to Kansas City to compete.
No, we have a lot of closer tournaments, so luckily we don't have to drive too far, but
that's a good deal.
Yeah.
Well, you can see I'm out in the sticks.
Right. Right.
The other thing he said was, he noticed that the times he lost were the times where he got put too much pressure on himself and stopped having fun.
Mm-hmm.
So he wanted you to always kind of compete with some aggression and but to still have some fun with it. Because if you're not out there having fun, then what's the point?
Right.
So at that time in Kansas, there's not really any BJJ at all. All we're doing is we're watching, UFC tapes or really wasn't hardly any instructions. I think Louis touched on that in your interview with him. I'm not even going to attempt that guy's last name because I know I'll mess it up.
Oh, Cercetis.
Yes. Wasn't a lot of instructional videos, so basically we're just like watching UFC and Pancrase for some reason was on our pay-per-view a lot. So I was, mowing lawns and getting Pancrase videos, and trying to go back and watch kind of technique from there. And I'd get a couple buddies together from the wrestling team, and we'd work out and try to figure out, like, we're watching the Zapruder film, stop and rewinding, trying to figure out where the arms go, where the knees squeeze on an arm bar, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, I started watching this and realizing that, like, especially like if you saw the Hoist versus Chemo match, where he was able to stay composed despite all the pressure, everything going bad, but he stuck to his game plan and controlled what he could control until the point where he had an opportunity and seized it.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought about that. The same thing kind of in life, if you can just kind of roll with the punches, stay positive, keep moving forward. In the end, good things are going to happen for you.
Oh, of course.
So I graduate, and I'm kind of thinking about either playing football or wrestling in college, and I lean towards football. Go out for a little junior college, and kind of tragedy strikes for me. My high school fiance gets killed by a drunk driver.
Oh, no. Sorry to hear that.
I appreciate that. So I'm coming back from overseas, and I don't even know what's happening. I get to the airport, and my parents are there, and Tom's there, my coach. And I'm kind of wondering what this is about. And he's like, kind of shows you that you develop these relationships with a mentor or a coach, and they can stick with you through a lifetime.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of take a year off. I'm going to school, but I'm like, I think you've talked about having some depression before. Am I correct?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So I'm as low as I've ever been. I'm like, I'm not going to class. I'm flunking out. And the only thing that I'm really getting motivated for is I'm coaching kids club wrestling and refereeing a little bit on the weekends. That's the only thing that's kind of motivating me to do anything but just kind of sleep. So some phone calls are getting made, and I get offered to walk on at a Division II school out here in at Fort Hays State. To walk on, do some wrestling, and see, if I can get this jump started in life. So we go out, and man, the conditioning's tough. I'm not in shape, but I get in better shape as the season's going on, or as the preseason's going on. And then get into the room, and we have those welcome to college wrestling moment, which I think is like the same thing as being a white belt and going into the room the first time and getting smashed by upper belts. Because you got guys in there that are all Americans, they're national runner-ups, and you're a guy that's, or I was a guy that was not on that level, and I'm getting smashed. But my mental health is way better. And I realize, as tough as this is what's getting me through. I don't have like the same competitive spark, but I feel at peace when I leave that room.
Yes.
No matter how bad my day is, or how down I am, when I get into that room and I don't always want to go, but I always find a way to make it.
Definitely.
And I noticed that my mental health is way, way better. I'm starting to feel better. I'm getting out of the house. I'm going to classes. At first, it was like the threat of getting my butt kicked by the coach. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Tracking me down because I missed a class. But then eventually, I'm coming out of this funk because I think it's entirely because I'm on the mats again. and I can see that just sense of peace, and everything's just kind of coming together better for me. So we get to the end of the season, and one of the assistant coaches, like generally in wrestling, you get the off season, you're doing freestyle or you're doing Greco. One of the coaches wanted to try judo. We had a economics professor who was from Japan who had had a judo club for Penn State and wanted to start one with us.
Mm-hmm.
So, I'm all in. I'm thinking, okay, I loved watching Hoist fight in the gi. And, I don't know when we're going to find a school in Kansas, especially rural Kansas, that has Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. So, I can do this and at least, have a style that's similar and maybe learn some new things.
Mm-hmm.
So the team is doing awesome because, basically we're all wrestlers. We're all in great shape. And we're kind of rolling through the competition to the point where I don't think anybody on our team lost to anyone outside of our team until nationals.
Wow.
And we had, let's see, 5 of us go to the national tournament and 4 medal the tournament. I didn't, but I was fighting with one arm. I had a bone spur that was impinging on a nerve in my arm, so I couldn't lift my arm. But I decided to compete anyway because the tournament was going to be in Kansas that year. And I thought, man, you can't get better than home cooking, so we'll give it a shot and we'll see what happens.
Mm-hmm.
So from there, let's see. That's gets me through like my junior year. And then our son is born. My wife is pregnant. We have the kid when I started my senior year. Yeah, started my senior year, summer before the senior year starts. And he's born preemie. So we're in the NICU, and the head nurse is I don't even know what brought it up, but she's talking to my wife about jiu-jitsu and how her husband knows Hoist Gracie and has did seminars with him. And my wife's like, hey, that's that guy you're always talking about, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I finally meet someone who's had like contact with like real life Brazilian jiu-jitsu, so I'm excited to meet the guy. Talked to him, I found out he's with a group called American Jiu-Jitsu, and at first I thought it was kind of cheesy. I'm like, okay, you guys are just like, throwing American on the front of it and no one's going to notice. You know what I mean?
Right.
And then I found out that what they're doing is they're trying to blend. It made sense because it talks about America being a melting pot. So they're a mixed martial arts style. They're trying to blend Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu with Japanese Jiu-Jitsu, Judo, and kickboxing. So they're trying to, address any kind of level, stand up, throws, takedowns, groundwork, things of that nature. And he knows that I'm going to go back to the Kansas City area when I'm finished with school. So I'm looking through the school listings. He says, well, there's this guy, Eric, who I think is mostly just like a kickboxer, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I get through the senior year. I go to watch a submission tournament, and there's going to be a Health Gracie seminar afterwards. I don't do the tournament because I got a knee injury, so I'm still kind of on crutches at the time. So I stick around. I see a couple guys with AJJ jackets on. Talk to them. They point out, yeah, this is how you get a hold of Eric. Eric's kind of one of those schools you got to know a guy to know a guy.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't really advertise. He kind of keeps things small. So I go and I meet Eric, who's supposed to be mostly stand-up, right? And I meet the guy, and he looks like the Hulk. But he can do the full splits.
Oh, wow.
So I'm not used to this. I'm not used to a guy that looks like him being able to head kick.
Right.
He's kind of an anomaly. And I'm thinking, okay, first day of practice, he shows me, a couple of kickboxing stuff. I'm like, man, he's a sweet kickboxer, but, there's no way he's wrestling. He's on my level. And I'm thinking, I've been on the mat with all these All-Americans, national champs, and, tore through judo. I'm going to smash this guy when we get to the ground stuff. So, he's kind of messing with me a little bit. He's checking my ego. He's like, wrestlers get this way. You guys are going to screw up. You're going to lose to arm bars. You're going to lose to triangle chokes. You're going to lose to guillotine chokes because you're going to get punched in the head because your stance is wrong, you know?
Right.
And, well, of course, which is true. But, you know, when you're 21 and you think you know everything. So here comes a day where Eric makes me wear a jacket, puts the gi on, and I'm thinking, okay, he's bigger than me, he's stronger than me. You know, he's going to try to play that top game, and he's going to try to smash me out. And I'm like, he's not going to be able to take me down. I'm thinking. Well, first thing he does is pull guard. And I spend the next 3 minutes just getting collar choked every which way you can think of. Like, whatever the encyclopedia of collar chokes was, he went A to Z.
Okay.
Just to kind of let me know that, you know, there's more to this game than what I think there is.
Always, right?
Oh, and he was so slick with it. Like at one point, he clock choked me by dropping his outside hook on his guard. So I'm thinking, oh, there's the path to escape. So I start walking in, and then I realize halfway through I'm clock choking myself.
Oh.
You know, he is not built in a manner where you think he's going to be slick, and he's just super smooth. You know.
Mm-hmm.
And I went in thinking he's going to rely on muscle, and he outslicked me just over and over and over and over again. So that was ego check day for Eric. I came out of that thinking, okay, that was my fall in love with jiu-jitsu moment. You know what I mean? Where I'm like, that was amazing. Because it's one thing to see it on TV. It's another thing to experience that in real life, you know, and feel that where it feels like you're, like Tom talked about, you're totally safe, and then you're not.
Yeah.
So we're working out like 4 times a week, stand-up grappling, like judo stuff, ground fighting, and then 2 times a week with kickboxing. And another thing I forgot to mention, Eric is a Green Beret. So he's kind of an elite guy, you know. And I'm finding out that one of his things was that you go through like military and you're moving from base to base to base. So you're learning a lot because you're going to different schools. But it can be, I guess, kind of disheartening because these guys are not belt ranking at the level that they really should be, because you might spend 2 years in one deployment, 4 years in another. So you're switching schools every so often. But at the same time, you're learning a lot. So in Eric's case, he knew, I mean, his knowledge base was huge. And then I'm finding out from him that while he's stationed in North Carolina, he's actually a sparring partner for Bone Crusher Smith.
Oh, wow.
That was one of the guys that Tyson beat when he unified the heavyweight title.
Yeah.
So I'm like, what's it like to fight a guy like that? And he looks at me and says, the only time I ever did a backflip in my life is because Bone Crusher Smith hit me with an uppercut.
Jeez.
He said he was laying the ropes, kind of trying to do a little rope-a-dope, and he said he blocked it, but even with the block in place, Bone Crusher hit so hard he flipped him up over the ring ropes.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. So that's pretty cool stuff to see. So I think at that time I'm like a brown belt with Eric, and his thing, he had a policies basically was to get your black belt. You either had to, well, first off, you had to teach at the school, which for me was the biggest blessing as far as technique wise, because then I had to stop and think about why all the techniques that I liked worked and how to make them work for other people. You know, and like how to observe your students and see like what their natural body movements were, so you could lend things to them that kind of fit their game.
Right.
Because, you know, for me, when I'm coaching somebody, I want to make them the best version of themselves. I don't want to make them another version of me. Because me, my style may not work for everybody. So I think there's like, you know, there's certain fundamentals that everybody needs to know. But then when you try to bring somebody up to the next level, I think it's important to kind of figure out what works for them. Like my son is 6'2". I'm 5'8". So I mean, we're totally different body types. So if I tried to coach him like me, it wouldn't work.
Right.
Okay, so you got to either black belt. So you either got to fight, you got to jump out of an airplane. Eric was a jump master in the military, so you had to do something scary, or you had to go to another school, get outside your comfort zone, and work out there for a year. And there was something else I can't think of at the moment. Anyway, I chose to fight, so I entered a pancration tournament, and my wife had never seen me compete. So she was doing her student teaching while I was in my last year of wrestling. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So it's going to be pancration tournament. It's going to be USA, Canada, and Mexico. So I get to the semifinals because it's a 4-man tournament. So first match is the semifinal match. And I draw one of the competitors from Mexico, and we're going at it pretty well. So, before I get into that, let me talk about the rule set. So basically, the rule set they had going was basically it was amateur MMA with no headshots.
Okay.
So we get into it. We're rolling pretty well. I get an underhook, and I do like a Victor roll, catch a toe hold on the guy, and tap him out. I'm super excited to look up. I don't see my wife.
Oh, no.
My little youngster had a fit because he was trying to get on the mat to see Daddy.
Oh.
So she had to take him out of the room. So she missed the whole thing.
No.
Right?
Oh, man. When I did my first tournament, I had my wife and daughter there, and I lost pretty bad, and I was just looking like, oh man, what is my wife and kids gonna think?
Oh man!
But I looked up and my daughter was just looking at her, like sitting there smiling, and she was like, "Did you win, Daddy?" I was like, "Nah, like no, I didn't."
But you know what? You went out there. You gave on it.
Oh yeah, I gave it my all, like definitely my all. But yeah, it was a good time, good experience, and I'm definitely plan on doing more. So
I think everybody should compete at least once just to see what it's like.
Mm-hmm.
And I find that if I got a competition, then I'm more dedicated to getting everything right as far as like diet and exercise and everything. Where if I'm just going to roll just for my own fun, then I get lazy.
Yeah,
So,
definitely.
Let's see. Oh, the other part about it, Eric, you had to go to seminars. So part of the thing with going to another school was there's this thing in Virginia called Karate College, and it is pretty sweet. You get all these world level championship guys, and it's like college. So you're going from like hour-long seminar to hour-long seminar. Like it had the year we went, Henzo Gracie was there. I think he's there every year.
Mm-hmm.
And the cool thing with Henzo was I've been in seminars where, like my philosophy is if I see something that I think can apply to my game, I want to see how it would work. You know, if I see a sweep that I think, okay, this goes into something I like to do, I'm going to play with it a little bit and see if it works for me.
Mm-hmm.
And I've had instructors kind of correct me in the middle of a seminar saying, hey, that's not what we're working on. You need to work on my stuff only. Where, like with Henzo, he shows the sweep from the opponent standing in your guard, and I'm in the middle of it. I think, man, this goes around this toe hold because I really like toe holds. And I start working on it, and I see him out of the corner of my eye, and I think, oh man, he's going to come over and chew my ass. Henzo comes over there, and then teaches me a better way to do the move I'm doing.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. I think that's probably why you see so much innovation out of his school. You know, you see like all the stuff Danaher did, or still's doing. And I think that a lot of that comes from Henzo having that idea of letting people experiment a little bit and play and fund their own game a little bit.
Definitely.
So a couple of the other like moments with Eric, I talked about him being a Green Beret. He's shooting an instructional for Green Berets for like ground fighting, and he's got his knife out, and it's like a big ass Rambo knife. I mean, it looks like a sword, and he's demonstrating like where the kill shots would be on certain grappling positions where you'd use a knife. And he's like, "This is going to be released military only, no civilian stuff." Because I'm like, "Who are you putting this out for?" And he's like, "Oh, my SF buddies." And I'm sitting there thinking, Lord, don't let this man have a flashback.
I know, right? Oh man.
So, yeah. He's like pointing out all the spots on me, and I'm like, oh Lord. I'm like, I know this guy loves me, and I'm a little intimidated right now. So shortly after I get my black belt with Eric, and then 9/11 happens. And as Eric puts it, they invited all us old crusty Green Berets to come back to war.
Oh,
so
wow.
He re-enlists, and he's going back to Afghanistan. So the school's closing down. And my wife and I get a job offer to move to California and run a group home for city of San Diego, or not city of San Diego, county of San Diego.
Okay.
We're out in rural Escondido, with San Diego County, but it's kind of out in the countryside a little bit. And I'm thinking, man, this is going to be okay because I'm losing Eric, but I mean, there's got to be like a gazillion BJJ schools, like right within distance. And like Luis Ursteda said, there really wasn't. This was like this is 2001. There's hardly any schools. I'm like looking through the yellow pages and I can't really find anything. So I'm kind of just back to coaching wrestling and helping out with the local clubs. And there's a little Krav Maga school that I'm going to. So just trying to stay active. And then we had this moment where, Carlos Valente, he's a Hickson Gracie black belt. He has a seminar at the boxing club I'm working at. And I'm thinking, this is my time. I've been waiting forever to find a guy for BJJ. And then I come home from the seminar super happy. A couple weeks later, we have a gang fight break out in our living room. And I'm thinking, okay, we have a job offer from another facility that's a little more established. And I'm thinking, okay, I'm going to have to give up on this because I can't have my wife's pregnant with our second kid. And I can't have gang fights breaking out where I'm throwing kids out of the house and driving them down the street to get them away from campus. Just not safe.
Right.
So we stay on in California for about a year, and then her grandmother gets sick. We move back to Kansas. So for the next couple of years, I'm just kind of working at the facility. I'm teaching classes to guys before shift on how to do some judo throws, do some restraints, things like that, because there's not really a set system in place. Then I transferred to a spot in Western Kansas that's a little bit bigger, and somehow the sheriff's deputy finds out about me. I'm not sure how. And he's training a guy for an MMA fight, and he wants a ground fighting coach. So I started working with him. That grows into us starting a school together and having a pretty decent local MMA school where I think we're winning 80% of our fights. A lot of local titles. And at some point I get a cut in my hand, it gets infected, and it turns into MRSA.
Oh.
So and it's right before a fight. So one thing that I know from working facilities is you've got a 1 hour window on medication. So the first time I think I'm taking it at 6 o'clock in the evening. This hardcore, I think it's vancomycin. So I asked the nurse, can I keep moving this back an hour? Because my guys are fighting on Saturday, So we get to that point, and I'm pretty happy. I can corner my guys. I think we win our first title there. And then I come back from after having the surgery, because they did the antibiotics, and then they came in and called debriding. I think that's the right word. Basically, they're going in there cleaning up the wound to make sure there's no infection left in it.
Okay.
And I come back, and I'm teaching a I'm teaching triangle escapes. And for some reason, every time I get in this position, my arm won't stop. It's like I've lost control of it. It's just flopping all over the place. So I stopped, and I've had some kind of symptoms before, but I wasn't sure what they were. I started talking to docs. They sent me for like a nerve conduction test, and they're just limiting things. Eventually, they sent me to a neurologist, and she says, "Well, you might have Parkinson's. I'm going to give you some medication. If it works, then you've got it." So I go home, research what Parkinson's is, start checking off the list. Yep. My foot drags by me sometimes when I walk. A couple other things I'm seeing, like, yeah, that sounds consistent with what I've got. So I take the medication, that stuff kind of goes away. So I come back in a week, and she's like, "Yep, I hate to tell you this, but that's what it is." So, at that point, I'm looking at research, and they're saying that basically they don't know the cause of it, but essentially you have dopamine that's produced by the substantia nigra in your brain, right? It's a little spot right in the back of your head, and it kind of affects your mood and your movement.
Mm-hmm.
So you start experiencing symptoms when you've lost 80% of the dopamine in your body. So, I'm running with like 20%. So my wife, super supportive. She finds out that, massage therapy can help Parkinson's. She starts studying it, starts working on me, opens a little small business. Our son joins the military and eventually gets stationed in Las Vegas. He starts training with Team Honey Badger.
Okay.
Out in Vegas. That guy is a cool guy too. We got to meet him a couple times. Antonio Lopez.
Okay.
So super excited watching my kid on TV on Flow or something like that. First big tournament as a white belt is IBJJF Nationals, and he wins in the finals by triangle choke, and I'm super pumped.
Nice.
Yeah. Meanwhile, my wife is delving into like these alternative remedies or therapies and stuff like that. She goes on the site and she's following this guy because he's talking about working on athletes at the PANS. And she knows that's a big BJJ tournament. And he's talking about following somebody down the rabbit hole and finding that the impingement wasn't on the guy's leg, it was in his arm.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to figure out, what are you talking about? How can something in your arm affect your leg? And what the guy's studying is neurokinetic therapy. And kind of to put the easiest way I can explain it with my knowledge of it is, whenever you get an injury, that can be like a roadblock for your brain. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So let's say you live in Detroit, right? Or that area?
Yep. Live in Detroit.
Okay. So let's say you get road construction on 2nd Street. And so everybody reroutes to 4th Street. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So 2nd Street gets repaired, but they leave the sign up saying don't use construction ahead. So everybody keeps using 4th Street.
Mm-hmm.
4th Street gets worn out because it's working too hard. It's doing the work of 2nd and 4th Street.
Right.
So NKT is somebody coming in and moving that do not enter sign off of there so that your body starts using the correct pathway again.
Oh, okay. It makes sense. I got you.
So my wife's doing that. She's doing some work with me. And through that, she meets this gal named Sky out in Arizona. Who's, hey, I'll mentor you. And Sky's putting on a Parkinson's clinic, they're like basically like exercises you can do to improve. Okay.
Okay.
So we go out there and they talk about how to engage the brain with movement. And the big thing was, you got to be enjoying what you're doing. So if it's something that you find fun, and it's a new movement, your brain's going to start rewiring, and it'll actually regrow pathways. So, I'm excited to hear this.
Right.
And we're doing the exercises at home. And then I'm at work, and someone says to me, my wife didn't think you had Parkinson's. I'm like, what do you mean? He says, well, I told her you did, but you're walking around all normal now. And I didn't even notice it. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm seeing my movements coming back, and our son is competing for in a grappling tournament, and I'm thinking it's the same weekend we're going to be going to Vegas to visit him. So in my mind, I'm thinking, well, it might be a cool little memory to go out there and compete on the same day my son, side by side, be kind of cool father-son moment.
Oh yeah.
And then maybe my wife will get to see me win.
So she finally get to see you win.
Right. So I'm really just kind of training by myself, and I'm working as a shift lieutenant for security at a mental hospital. So I'm just grabbing my younger guys, and I'm like, hey, all you 20-year-olds, come beat up the old man after work.
Oh wow.
So I get in good physical condition, but my technique is not where it needs to be.
Mm-hmm.
But I think, okay, at least if I don't go out there and tap out because I'm tired, I won't embarrass myself.
Right.
So I go out and I have a couple matches with a guy that's like, he beats me by an arm bar twice. But, I'm making it into the match. I'm not tired. I'm feeling good. And I'm thinking, well, maybe if I get a little more experience on this, or I find a club that I can roll with, get some more experienced guys around me, I can, maybe get something going here.
Mm-hmm.
So I ended up meeting this guy named Nick Taylor. And he's got a little small jiu-jitsu school where basically it's just like kind of connected with a faith-based deal. And he's doing it, just basically giving away free classes at that time.
Mm-hmm.
But it's the middle of COVID, so he's not taking any new students on. So, I bug him every month or every week until, the months go by, and finally he's like, all right, come into class.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm in the class, and I got some good guys around me, but, I'm thinking I'm having fun. I'm officially now a white belt in BJJ, and I'm like, this is kind of cool. It's taken me 30 years to get to this point, but I finally found a BJJ school.
Right.
Right, and it's just down the street, and it's in a small town. So, some time goes by, and my son is getting shipped out to Spain. He's getting married, and they're going to send him to Spain. Right.
Okay.
So I think, okay, we got to see the kid before he goes. And once again, there's a tournament that weekend, and I'm thinking, I'm just going to watch. I'm not really great shape. I've been training for this. As we kind of find out on last minute that he's getting shipped out, I think we had like a month before. I'm thinking my old bud needs more time to be ready for something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So in the meantime, I found out my high school coach that I talked about back at the beginning has been diagnosed with Lou Gehrig's disease.
Oh. So
I'm kind of torn up about it, and I think, the Facebook pops with those little Facebook memories.
Mm-hmm.
It popped up some of the pictures from that first tournament I went to in Vegas that I lost at. And he's on there talking about, how excited he was to see me out there and still competing, despite everything, and, showing a lot of heart.
Mm-hmm.
And I put a smile on his face. So I think, I'm going to put a smile on the old man's face one more time. So I'm like, may not be my best go, but we're going to get in shape as quick as we can. And we're going to get going, Talk to Nick and tell him what I'm doing. I need some of the younger guys to beat me up a little bit more after practice, do a couple more rolls or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So I go out, order a rash guard with my high school coach's, his school in New York. So I think, that'd be kind of cool. And of course, since it's COVID, it arrives like 2 weeks after the tournament.
Right. You couldn't get nothing during COVID. It was
no way.
Terrible. Such a terrible time.
It was rough. Yeah, so I go out to Vegas. I'm entering in at heavyweight and absolute advanced no-gi.
Oh.
So, and I'm not a heavyweight. I'm at least I'm not a natural heavyweight. I tip the scales now. But I should be competing. When I competed like as a welterweight, I'm like 5'8", like I said earlier. So I'm clearly not the biggest guy in the tournament.
Right.
So we go in the night before, and I find out the guy I'm going to compete with used to run with my son's club, but he switched to something else and kind of because it was easier to get to, less of a drive.
Mm-hmm.
I work out with those guys. My son says, "Yeah, here's a couple things I noticed when I competed with the guy in practice." So I kind of stored that away. And kind of like my big moment that kind of made me excited was my son kicked my butt that night. Like I could see how far he'd grown and how much he'd learned in that school because he was just so smooth. So I don't know if that's something weird to get excited about, but I kind of think it's cool when your son gets to the point where he's kind of able to do some bigger things than what you can do.
Yeah. My daughter just recently started training, and I talk about her a lot, but yeah, so I'm hoping that one day too, like if she right now I think she's doing it because I do it. So I hopefully she'll actually fall in love with it her for herself, and she go on to like train a lot, grow, and maybe even compete one day. So
well, and I heard you talk about it, and I think the best thing that you're doing is you're not forcing her into it.
Yeah.
Like my oldest asked me one time, he said, "Why don't you make me wrestle more?" Because he started wrestling as a kid, hated it, and then came back in junior high and loved it. He's like, "Man, I would have been so much better if you would have forced me to wrestle." I'm like, if I would have forced you, you wouldn't have loved it, and you would have hated it, and you wouldn't be doing BJJ now.
Right. Yeah, because I see the few tournaments that I've gone to, and looking at some of the kids that be there, and you can, as a parent, you obviously can tell which parent is like forcing their kid to do this stuff, and
Absolutely.
they can you can see it in the kid's face, their energy. They're trying their best because they don't want to disappoint their parent, but at the same time they're not having fun.
No.
Not having fun at all.
And if they're not, they're never going to get the most out of it.
Nope. Not at all.
So comes time to have the match. And one of the things I told the guys, in case he knew about my Parkinson's, I was like, hey, because the original match I was wrestling 2 years before that, I was grappling with Phil Dunlap. And I kind of sometimes like have this hitch where I kind of cough.
Mm-hmm.
And Phil stops because he thought I was hurt. And I'm like, no, keep going, we're good. Which I thought was pretty gentlemanly of the guy. Because he kind of knew the situation. But I told the opponent, I was like, hey, this might happen, that might happen. I might get in the mat and lose balance and fall on my ass. I was like, no. And I think he got the impression that I wanted to take it easy on him. I'm like, no, that's not it. I'm telling you that I know how to tap. If worse comes to worse, I can tap. I said, you might have some weird stuff happen. I'm like, just keep going your regular game like you would anybody else. And if I get in a bad spot, I know how to tap out. Don't stress about it. Just you do you.
Yeah. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Because that just reminded me of something.
Oh, go ahead.
So, recently my wife started back training, and she's gonna be mad at me for mentioning this, but we were working kind of like a I want to say it's kind of like an X choke variation, but we were working at, and she's like working with another white belt, and she's like trying to get the technique down, and she's like, I just can't seem to get it. And I'm like, okay, well, show me what's going on. So I have her do the move to me, and you can tell like she's so like hesitant to do it. I'm like, go for the choke, and she's like, I don't want to hurt you. And my instructor looked over at her, and she's like, don't you see the color on his belt? I was like, this ain't the first time.
I've been choked once or twice.
Yeah, I've been choked like quite a few times, but people like, I guess they don't really think about that. Like, like when you're working with underbelts, and they're going for like different types of arm locks and chokes and stuff, and they're like, you're not necessarily tapping, and they're like, I'm cranking on this thing. How are you not tapping? I'm like, this is not my first Kimura. This is
right.
Damn sure it's not gonna be my last. Like I felt this move like 100 times at white belt, if not more. Mm-hmm. So, and I'm a brown belt, so I felt this quite numerous amount of times. So, just for sure. Cinch it in. I'll let you know if it hurts.
There's that initial when you're first feeling the move and you panic because you don't know what it is.
Mm-hmm.
And then with time, you get to figure out what your limits are and how far you can take something. So
yeah,
absolutely.
Because for a while, well, even till now, like I've been like the when my friend Andrew was training, he was the uke, the person who helps demonstrate what the instructor for people who don't know what that term is. He was the uke, but after a while, he kind of fell out of love with jiu-jitsu. So I was training. This was like when I was a blue belt, I don't know, about 4 or 5 times a week. So I became the uke for like all the techniques, and even though like from then to now, I'm still like the uke. But yeah, I've felt so many arm locks and chokes and wrist locks and leg locks and all this other stuff where I'm not gonna say I'm immune to them, but it takes a whole lot more to like cinch it in for me to be like, okay, tap.
Right.
It's like you got flexible shoulders and arms. No, I'm just used to it. Like it sucks, but I'm comfortable with the pain.
Yeah. Yeah. You know what you can take.
Yeah. Definitely.
Like when I talked about Eric earlier, Eric can't be knee barred.
Mm-hmm.
He just feels like a stretch, like in his hamstring.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, I do not get you. But some people are just have those techniques that are just that 1% some out there where everything's going to work except for that one guy.
Mm-hmm.
But most of us, it's just you got that spot where you got to give up the tap. So
yeah. I mean, I'm at the point now where, I'm brown. I done felt so many different techniques and stuff like that. If I'm rolling with a white belt and if they got it locked in, but I know they're not going to finish it, I'll tap anyway. Like, just go ahead because I'm not about to have you, feel like, I need to wrench this like a little bit harder and then you blow my shoulder out of place. So sure. Nah. Like, you got it locked up. All right, and tap. Oh, did I have it right? No, you had it locked up, but I'm not about to let you mess my arm up. I gotta go to work tomorrow.
Yeah, you gotta let your ego go and remember. Yeah, you gotta go back to work.
Yeah. Oh, I've one thing about me. I've never had an ego when it came to jiu-jitsu because I fell in love with the sport so much and being around so many like humble people at the school, including my coach. I couldn't help but become that.
Absolutely.
Oh,
absolutely.
I mean, all schools get those egos, and we had a couple, and they didn't last too long. I think maybe like 1 or 2 classes, but yeah.
Like, okay, so you talk about egos and kind of people not lasting. So the thing that Eric would do, I talked about Eric looking like the Hulk. His wife is a better boxer than he is.
Holy crap!
And she's a small little Mexican gal, right?
So
if a guy would have an ego problem, he would try talking to him, and then if that didn't work, he would have his wife spar him. And his wife would beat the brakes out of him.
Oh, that's awesome.
So then, after that, it was either they would either drop the ego or they would drop class. But either way, it was a win-win.
It's a win-win, right? Right. That's hilarious. That is hilarious.
So, getting back to that match, I'm go out and compete with the guy for the just heavyweight before the absolute. And I lose by points. Get into a couple spots where I scramble a little bit and lose some points, but it's competitive. I'm feeling pretty decent about it. Like, my wife's been following stuff over the years because, like, the guy had me. He was using a knee shield, and she's like, "Why didn't you go toe hold?" I'm like, "Cause I could feel him threatening with the scissor sweep,
Mm-hmm.
And I felt like if I went for that, he's going to sweep me." She's like, "Well, you should have hit it anyway." I'm like, "Man, that guy is full grown." He gets stuff off the top of the fridge for his mom, and when she wants to sweep underneath it, he lifts the fridge up. I was like, I'm not going to try to hit something that I know is going to get me swept underneath a big dude like that.
So yeah, no, thank you.
So I think I lose like, I don't know, 3-0, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And then go on and watch my son compete, and man, he's doing pretty well. At one point, he's kind of not the first couple matches he looks like he's off. And I'm thinking, man, is he worried about me? And he's not. That's why he's not doing well. So his coach comes over and kind of chews his butt a little bit. Says, I don't know who's in your head today, but you need to get rid of that because that's not the guy I need to see on the mat. I need to see what I see every week in practice.
Mm-hmm.
And he just goes through and just tears through the rest of the tournament. Just tears through it. Just does a great job. After the first one, I'm pumped up and I'm like riding this emotional wave because I got to see my son win. And I hear the guy I competed with talk kind of complimentary of me, talk about how it was tough to move me around. Pretty strong guy. If I was only taller, I'd be really difficult to deal with. And I'm thinking, okay, I'm feeling pretty good. Maybe I'm not blind here, but he's saying some good things. So maybe I got a shot in this match.
Mm-hmm.
So rematch, I'm thinking, okay, what can I control? If I maybe take some less offensive attempts and don't scramble as much, maybe I can pull this off.
Mm-hmm.
So we get back for the rematch from the finals of the Absolute, and then the thing with Parks is sometimes your meds switch off.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm in the middle of the match. We go out there, I'm maybe 30 seconds in, and I start getting dizzy, and I feel my legs stop working.
Oh.
And I'm like, oh, shit, what am I going to do? And for a second, I feel like I want to tap. But then I can hear Tom say, we don't give up. We move forward.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm thinking, okay, what can I control? I'm like, he couldn't take me down last time. So if I keep control these ties, keep pressure forward, until this passes, we'll see if this passes. Another minute goes by, I can feel my legs kick back on again. I'm like, okay, I'm in business.
So the car has started.
Right? That's what it looks like sometimes. Because I'll have a couple stumble steps and then I start moving. Yeah, guys at work will be like, "Are you revving up there, big guy?" I'm like, "Yep, revving up." Or they talk about Parkinson's being either shake or freeze.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll tend to freeze a lot. And someone will be like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "It's cool. I'm just on pause."
So just a quick little pause. I'm good. Let's go.
Pause. I'll be good in a second. So, I kind of control the mat space, shoot him off the mat a couple times. Because he's so much bigger than me. I don't want to commit to something and get stuck underneath him. But if I kind of force him out of bounds, I think I'm kind of winning some points, and maybe I'll catch something on the edge of the mat and score something.
Uh-huh.
So we go into overtime. It's 0-0. Kind of following the same plan. I'm controlling the center of the mat, moving him around, shooting him off the mat, and then we get down to like the final 5 seconds, and I try to hit a lateral drop at the edge of the mat to try to score on him, and I miss it. But I'm able to get half guard, so he doesn't score any points. So I'm like, okay. I felt like I controlled the fight, but I don't know if that last match, the last little bit of action is going to look bad for the referee for me or not. But I'm feeling confident.
Mm-hmm.
So we get to the center of the mat, and it's up to the referee. He's going to decide who wins, and I can feel him raise my arm. I'm like, man, I felt light as a feather.
Awesome.
I look over, and then I see my wife. She's got to see it.
I was just about to ask, so did the wife get to see this time?
Yeah.
Good job, wife.
She had a little tear in her eye, and she wiped it off real quick. She's like, no, I'm not going to do that. I was pretty excited for her. But my thing was, I wanted to win so she could see it because she puts so much work into me with all the body work and all the knowledge and all the research she does. And I wanted to win a medal from my coach because he's just a great guy, and he's another person that put a lot of effort into me. Because as you go through life, it's not just about you; it's about the people that invest in you.
Definitely. And I can honestly say, like, my wife is like, I mean, obviously she's been extremely supportive since I've started jiu-jitsu. Even like she was willing to sacrifice herself for me when I was prepping for I think this is my purple belt test. She was sort of kind of still, no, this is my blue belt test. I was getting ready for my blue belt test. And I was like, okay, I want to get these techniques down. So I was like, put on your gi for me, and I need to go over these techniques.
Right.
And I mean, she stuck through it. She stuck with it. And, even to this day, she still, like, we roll a little bit. And like, if I want to work a technique, if I see something, I'm like, come to work with me. And she's like, okay. All right, started my guard. She's like, oh.
That's good stuff.
Yeah, but she's getting a lot better. She's she's actually advancing a lot more than what she thinks she is, because she's so hesitant to like oh I'm gonna do this wrong, but nah, she's doing a pretty good job.
Yeah, there's no wrong. There's just learning.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Cause like that's my just dream, to like actually be able to like fully roll, like me and her just full roll, like full blown roll. Can't wait.
Oh yeah.
Cannot wait.
One of my college teammates, him and his wife, were both IBJJF national champs.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, that's cool stuff.
That's the very, very cool stuff. But yeah, man, if you got any questions for me, if you want to, shout out your school, and if you, I don't know if you're still competing or not, if your school competing, you can definitely, plug them. The floor is still yours.
Yeah, we got a November Tango and BJJ in Great Bend. We meet Tuesdays and Thursdays at 6:30. You can find us on Facebook. It's a great group of guys and gals, and we have a lot of fun. And yeah, I'm trying to get back into it. I kind of had a big knee injury last March that I'm kind of just about recovered from. So, I've been to a couple practices and watching, but then I started wanting to get on the mat.
Yeah, no one can go to class and just watch.
No, I started wanting to go. I see somebody needs help with a takedown. I know all about that. Come here a second. I'm like, no, don't do it. Don't do it. Your wife is going to kick your ass.
Oh,
yeah.
Man.
So questions for you. So one jiu-jitsu question and one nerd question.
Gotcha.
Because I saw that and I was like, man, this guy might be my new best friend because he likes jiu-jitsu and nerd stuff.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So do you have any kind of mental preparation you do before competing?
Well, given the fact I only did one, but I kind of try to keep myself calm enough. I don't necessarily like to, I don't say go in with a game plan, but my main game plan is to just establish myself, get, if I can get my top position to slow everything down, keep myself calm. But I guess that's like the basic game plan for any jiu-jitsu, because I do it even in a friendly role at class. Like I try to keep myself calm and just go with the flow, and then pace myself, because that was a big issue with mines. It still kind of is a little bit, but like I've learned to like really, really slow myself down, and my jiu-jitsu have like took a big leap from purple to brown since I started doing that. So, but I will be testing that soon, though. I will be testing that soon in January. There is Grappling Industries. I believe it's January 7th here in
awesome.
In Wayne, Michigan. So I will be competing at that. I know I'm gonna do gi, but I'm trying to see where I'm at to do both gi and no gi.
Right.
So I'm like, this is my second tournament. I want to go balls to the wall, but I don't want to go crazy with it. So I'm still in the fence about that, but I'm definitely doing that tournament. So yeah, I've been getting ready for that for like the last couple months, because I was going to do a tournament in October, but I ended up testing for my brown belt, and my instructor was like, okay, what you want to do? Like, are you doing this tournament? Because we got something to take care of. And then when I realized what he was talking about, I'm like, oh, I would hate to like I would hate to test for brown belt and then like the next week do a brown belt competition. So I was like, nah, let's just get the brown belt out the way, and then I'll just find another one. And then that's when I found the one in January. Yeah,
it's like and that calming thing, I think is a great approach. I see like wrestlers will use like the pump up music, like heavy metal and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
One of them came up to my son one time. He's like, "What are you jamming out to?" He's like, "A Frank Sinatra."
Yeah.
So he gets down with like jazz and crooner type music before he goes out. So he's in a calm place and not really a super heated place. It works for him.
Yeah, because that's my thing too. When I was like, I got a little playlist of music I listened to when I was about to compete that day, and I'm like this playlist was awesome because it was a lot of down tempo songs, like a lot of mellow songs, because I didn't want to get myself overhyped. Because if I get if I put on a rowdy song, I'm gonna get too rowdy, and then that might throw me off. So I was like, you know what? We're gonna keep it calm, keep the playlist light and like relaxed. And I still got my ass kicked, but I was relaxed when I got it, when I did it. So
I like to have something that makes me want to dance a little bit, but not like like little Stevie Wonder, something like that.
Yeah, just get you just to groove, not to get too hype.
Right. So then the nerd question is, what do you want to see go live action? Like anything from could be a comic, could be a video game, could be anime. Just what do you think deserves to be that next level live action?
What deserves to be live action? Honestly, I'm not gonna say video games. I don't necessarily feel like. I mean, it depends on the game, because I know they're doing like a not God of War, Gears of War movie, but shooter games like God of War, Halo. I mean, I keep saying God of War. Because I've been playing it, Gears of War, and Halo and stuff like that, because they're like, I guess you want to say like military-esque shoot 'em up type games. Right. You can kind of do a legitimate story in an hour to kind of fit into the universe. Not so much action adventure games and stuff like that, but oh man, if I want to go like comic book related, I would love to see a better Green Lantern movie.
That'd be great.
I know HBO Max is talking about doing one that was supposed to be following Jon Stewart, so I'm excited about that. Obviously, I would love to see Static Shock.
Oh, that'd be rad.
I would like to see Miles Morales Spider-Man in live action. And I would like to see I kind of want to see a Thundercats live action movie, only if James Cameron does it.
Well, that could be good.
That's the only way I accept that.
Talking Green Lantern, the guy that I see in that role is I can't think of his name right now, but he played the gunslinger in what is the name of it? He's had that movie about with the lions. Dang it, Beast. He was the star of the show Beast, where he's kind of out in Africa and his family gets attacked by the lion.
Oh, Idris Elba.
Yes.
I can see that. I can see that. Good. I was thinking, I cannot remember his name. He's new. Denzel Washington's son.
Yeah.
Him and God is gonna haunt me because I'm looking right at him and I know his name, but there's another actor that I would think would play that role well, but I can't think of his name right now. But I would love to see there's a lot more, but that would be like a whole nother show.
Right. Way off topic.
Yeah, way off topic. We'd be like, that's like a whole nother hour, but we'll definitely we'll talk about that, personally. But yeah, that'll be a whole nother show. But yeah, that's the end of today's episode. I would like to thank my guest Ed again for coming onto the show and sharing his experience with us. I hope you guys enjoyed it. So if you can you please go and follow our Facebook and Instagram page to stay up to date on all future episodes. This have been Talk Your Jits podcast. Keep rolling, keep grinding, and remember, long live jiu-jitsu. Have a great day.